Hey, welcome to Fancy Lady Talks. Come for the boobs, stay for the brains. I am Rosie Fitz. This is Marissa Boyce.
Hi.
Hey. What did you want to say, Marissa?
I wanted to say make sure you like this video and subscribe to this channel so that you're always getting our new videos, which we're uploading every week.
Every single week we're here doing this thing, talking about cool things.
That's right.
Having cleavage. As you do.
Yeah, you don't want to miss that.
No, as fancy ladies do, except for I don't. I'm being demure. I'm being cozy and demure this week.
You are not demure.
In our dreams, I'm demure. So what are we talking about this week, Marissa?
Yeah, so last week we covered 5 ways to know you're in a trauma bond. And again, clarifying that we're not talking about trauma bonds in the context of a narcissistically abusive relationship. Like most of the videos on YouTube are talking about that. We wanted to talk about trauma bonds and just regular old relationships.
Regular old dysfunctional relationships. Normal dysfunction like most of us experience.
Yeah, like it doesn't have to be extreme or abusive. It can still be trauma bonded.
Totally.
Right?
But the key to these types of relationships is actually that it's a lot easier for us to heal. Either inside the relationship, there's a chance to heal inside the relationship and work with the relationship and move it into a healthy space, or to heal ourselves outside of that relationship. So we are going to give you, the 5 tips? The 5 tips on how to heal inside or outside of a trauma-bonded, non-abusive, but just plain old dysfunctional relationship.
That's right. If you are in an abusive, trauma-bonded relationship, there's lots of videos on YouTube to support you with that. And we might make a video later about that.
Yeah.
But for right now, we want to tell you the 5 tips of how to heal or how to work through being in a trauma bond relationship.
Totally. So tip number 1. What was our tip number 1?
Awareness.
Awareness. What's going on? And you know how you gain awareness? Go back to the last video where we showed you the 5 tips to tell you're in a trauma bonded relationship, and you can be like, oh shit. Oh shit.
No shit.
That sounds like me. Damn it.
Are they watching me? How do they know what's going on?
They're in my house. And we actually are, guys. We are.
We actually are.
We're everywhere. We're omnipotent or omnipresent. You were an English teacher. You know these things.
It's true. So yeah, the awareness piece, I mean, that's where it all starts, isn't it? It's we become aware, first of all, that maybe something doesn't feel quite right, doesn't feel healthy, feels a little bit off. We don't know what's going on. So we start Googling things.
Well, maybe first we're like, oh, I'm just so in love with this person. It's happening so quickly. Amazing. Right? But then you're like, wow, my friends are telling me that I never want to hang out with them anymore.
That's right.
And I just don't focus on the things I used to love to do. And that doesn't feel good.
Or there's this real compulsive thing going on that you just don't understand why you can't stop doing something, and you're like, oh, this just isn't feeling good. Maybe you're not sleeping well.
Totally.
Maybe you feel sick. Like, it can impact a lot of parts of your life.
Absolutely. And when you're in that early trauma bonded stage, you're feeling this dopamine hit, which we'll talk a little bit down the line about. But for me, it feels like I drank too much coffee all the time. I'm feeling like on the edge of a little bit of mania.
It's true.
Like I'm a little like, I'm excited. I can't focus on anything. I just drink like 25 cups of coffee, but it's not that. I'm just trauma bonded.
Yeah, it's true. And then I have the high and the low. That's for sure. That's how I know it's happening.
Totally. So, you know what, you can start to feel like and have that awareness of, ooh, something's going on. So awareness is number 1, just to notice, oh, maybe I'm in a trauma bond. Number 2, our favorite topic, one of our favorite topics ever to start healing from this is you're going to shift out of that behavior, and you're going to do that.
That's right.
By setting some boundaries.
That's right. So this one could take some work. So if you're inside a relationship and you're like, whoa, this is going into some places that might be trauma bonded, there might be some unhealthy behavior patterns, this would probably mean a conversation with this person. Could be a friend, could be a lover, could be a partner, and just saying like, hey, we need to have a chat about what's been going on here. And just identifying, you know, what are the behaviors you're noticing for yourself or for them, and then starting to work on boundaries.
Totally. Starting to set healthy boundaries, and they don't have to be like, oh, I'm not going to do this anymore, blah, blah, blah. Like, you know, they don't have to, people think boundaries are like mean and hard. They're not all those things. They can be actually pretty gentle. It can be like, I'm noticing that we're texting each other nonstop, and that's distracting me from my daily life, and you too, probably. So maybe let's set a boundary about when we're going to be in communication.
I really like that, yeah. And then also just, we'll do a video later about boundaries and how to set boundaries in the context of these things. But, you know, when you're in a relationship and you're talking with someone about setting boundaries, that is such a healthy conversation to have, right? Because you're talking about your needs, you're talking about what might be going a little bit off for you, and you can hear from them too, so you know you're not alone in this.
Totally. And it's also, you know, I think while we're talking about setting boundaries, it's important to note that you and they may feel some discomfort. You may feel some resistance come up to the idea of setting boundaries. Totally normal. And what you're going to do in this context is you're going to kind of ride it. You're going to go back and go, oh, is that reasonable for them to set that boundary? Or do I feel reasonable in setting this boundary? You're going to sit with it. And if there's a yes, then you're going to be like, I'm just going to let go of my discomfort around this and continue with the setting of the boundary, or continue with honoring their boundary that they've set.
Right, and you might need to hold each other accountable for these boundaries at first, because when it's a trauma bond, there's a lot of cravings, right? The cravings can be intense, so you're gonna have to prepare for that. So you might want to make a plan. So what happens if I feel like breaking this boundary? How will you support me? How will I support you through holding this boundary that I know is important to you?
Totally. And that's a great way of utilizing that other person that you're in partnership with, or newly in partnership with, or in romance with. Or you can do it with a friend.
Yeah, it's true.
Right? You can get a friend to be your support buddy. Okay, what is our next step, Marissa?
Get support.
Get support! Wow, I just led right in there and set that one right up.
You really did. Get some resources, some outside help. So this might look like, you know, you're accessing literature about attachment, you're accessing even some YouTube videos.
Totally.
You might want to show this YouTube video to your person. You're maybe going to counseling with or without this person.
And I would say, if you're already fairly into your relationship, and you've noticed that you have a pretty deep trauma bond formed with this person, that's the time to get counseling.
It's true. Right?
You can start off, you can totally start by reading some books together, especially around attachment and stuff like that. But I would say it's not going to hurt you to go for just even a couple sessions.
Totally.
To help set those parameters, right? And from somebody who's not emotionally involved in your relationship.
That's right. So start talking about it.
Totally.
And I mean, this could mean also you're talking to a friend. You're letting people in, because what often happens in these trauma bonded relationships is you get really isolated inside these things. And so it might be good to even start talking about what's going on with someone you trust.
Yep. Again, so get support. Yes.
Woohoo.
And then our next one is my favorite.
And not mine.
And Marissa's least favorite. But it's also actually my least favorite. I'm just getting pretty good at it.
Yeah.
Is you are going to learn how to sit with your uncomfortable emotions. Ew. So what that looks like is, we've talked about feeling some craving and maybe having a little bit of impulsive behavior, a little bit or a lot, depending on who you are. I'm pretty impulsive. I'm a spontaneous, passionate, free spirit. So impulsivity really kind of comes naturally to me. And at times it looks like passion, and at times it looks like fucking crazy.
How do you know the difference?
How do you know the difference? It's a gray area there sometimes. Sometimes a little gray area.
Yeah.
But in regards to this, is what you're going to do is, rather than acting on your emotions immediately, you're going to take a pause. You're gonna take
Whoa.
a pause. Yeah. So when you're like, oh, but I just have to tell him or her or them like this thing, and it's really important that they know this right this moment, because like it's just like they can't wait till later. Or like, yeah, I know I've seen them every single day this week, and I know my friends are really sad that they haven't seen me, but we really need to get together because
I need to see them one more time.
One more time. Or they've just texted me and I'm driving on the highway, and yet I know they've just texted because I can see it out of the corner of my eye, and I need to respond immediately. I cannot wait till I get to a place.
So I'm going to text and drive. Don't text and drive.
No, don't text and drive. So what you're going to do is you're going to take a pause. And quite possibly that pause is going to lead into, what am I actually feeling? Oh, I feel pretty uncomfortable. I'm feeling usually pretty activated in my nervous system. Maybe I actually need to take some space.
That's right.
Not necessarily from the relationship, but on my own, to just sit with my feelings and to feel this discomfort and to not act upon, not impulsively act upon what my feelings are in the moment. Make a different choice.
And what I often tell my clients to do when I'm, when we're working with sitting with difficult emotions is to ask themselves, what do I feel?
Yeah.
And getting really aware of what even the feeling is, which can be really difficult for us when we're recovering from these kinds of things.
Yeah.
And then what do I need right now? How can I meet my own need in this moment?
Yeah.
And just listening, asking and listening.
And it's okay to also, you don't have to do this in total isolation. This doesn't mean like I'm going to go away for 4 days by myself sitting on a mountain. Although you could, and actually coming out of trauma bonds, I've actually done a lot of that. I've done a lot of like, I'm going to go away now for a week or 9 days by myself to just have space and actually get in touch with my emotions. But you can text a friend. You know what? Marissa and I text each other all the time. Are we trauma bonded? No, we're not. But we do. It's it's okay for us to like be like, hey, I'm feeling this thing. I'm like, I need a little support, or like this popped up. How are you doing?
Yeah. What do you need right now?
Right? So you can do that in community. You can sit with these difficult emotions in community. Yes. You can journal it out. I sing it out. When I'm really feeling conflicted, I sing it out.
I like to exercise or dance even when things come up.
Totally. So there's a number of different ways, and this is what we're going to talk about. Can you talk a little bit about that dopamine hit?
Right.
That craving for that dopamine hit right now.
Right. So what you're going to notice coming up probably is feelings of craving. So if you're setting a boundary, an internal boundary, and an internal boundary is setting a boundary with yourself, and you're going to say, hey, when I feel compulsion to reach out and I've set a boundary, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to sit with it. What most likely will come up is a feeling of craving. And what you're craving is that dopamine hit from the trauma bond. So there's ways that you can, access dopamine on your own.
Yeah.
Imagine. There's actually lots of YouTube videos that talk about dopamine hacks. So, there's some simple ways. There's self-soothing and self-regulation. Exercise is a really great way just to get the dopamine hit like pretty quickly. Within like 10 minutes, you can feel a lot better. Even just a walk. Yeah. You can feel one of the emotions really passionately. Like, let's say you're feeling super angry. You could safely express anger in the context of your own home. Chocolate actually has been known to have dopamine-inducing properties, so eat some chocolate.
Eat some chocolate. Don't take cocaine, which will also release dopamine.
Well, and that's another trauma bond.
That's another trauma bond. So don't do that one. Have a little chocolate. Go for a little run, and not the cocaine.
Yeah, have a bath, because the bath, actually, the warm water can induce dopamine as well. And then the last piece is self-regulation and self-soothing techniques. Yeah. There's lots of videos on YouTube about how to self-regulate and self-soothe. There's little tips and strategies that you can use. It's so cool right now. People are really talking about this stuff. Yeah,
it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. There's so many resources for you out there. So was that the last tip? What was our last tip? No, our last tip was...
refocus on you. Get the focus back to you.
Yes. So that means you're going to start to reinvest in the things that you love to do. You're going to get back into igniting those friendships and relationships around you. You're going to take up a hobby if you don't have one.
Yeah.
Your partner or this romantic interest should not be the main focus of your life. It's not healthy for either of you. You should be, and not in a narcissistic, like super individualistic way. Be in community, but find your joy and your passion of being in community, and have that partner be part of that community rather than the central focus point.
When I was healing from one of these, I did this thing where anytime a thought came into my head about this person, which was a lot because I was in obsession, I would say me. I'd come back to me, or I'd say my name in my head a few times, like Marissa, and then I would be like, oh yeah, me, not them, because the tendency in these things, and if you struggle with trauma bonds, is like we want to focus outside of ourselves. And a lot of the time that's because we don't want to feel some of the difficult emotions like loneliness or fear, sadness, whatever it is in there.
Insecurity. Totally.
So refocusing on yourself, you can journal and write like everything that you love to do, or anything you've been meaning to try to do. You can start trying them. You can start adding little things into your life that matter to you.
Totally. And or if you're like me and you're an introvert, you can do what I did, which is go away on trips by myself, spend a lot of time actually by myself, refocusing on me.
That's actually a really good idea.
So I think we're good. I think that's it for today.
That is it for today.
Let us know what you think. We love to hear from you. We love when you give us comments.
Yeah, ask a question. Check out our links for our social media, and looking forward to seeing you next week.
See you next week.